This is advice for first years in marriage.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
Joe,
good.
go on.
It's
Spill
good.
it. Spill
I
the
love the
beans.
planning concept there that you've said. Like, I love it when we approach life with intention as opposed to living accidentally. So I think that planning word is so key, thinking about what do you want it to be like and not just waiting for it to turn up.
Oh, true.
And then it's not what you wanted, but you don't know how to deal with it.
Well, if,
Yeah, sorry. Can I, as your work as a therapist, I know you work a lot with couples and things like that around relationships. Would you say you often talk to people in their first year or first couple of years of, say, being married, or would you more frequently see people who are further on down the track?
Yeah, I think there's critical times. So first couple of years, and then if you think kids, mortgage, trying to build your career. So like that time when you're trying to do all three things at the same time, that's very crunchy and challenging. And then tend to get another real hit around the perimenopause phase. So those would be the three most critical kind of change seasons.
I
Yeah,
would
right.
have imagined, Joe, that if somebody is coming to see you in their first year of marriage or second year of marriage, then maybe marriage wasn't for them in the first place.
Seller, the worst therapist ever. He's like, you know what? I think just call it a day. You obviously, this is a bad idea.
No, you know what I
good
mean?
call.
I'm just thinking, if you're contemplating marriage, if you're planning marriage, I would think that you would know enough about your potential spouse to be able to ride out their first couple of years. You know, I'm not sure, but on the back of that, what are the common challenges that people come to you around their first year of marriage? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so the top two that come to mind just straight away, and sorry, I'm slightly losing my voice. I had a very intense, wild, good party on Saturday night.
Nice.
But still not recovering from all the singing. So the two that come to mind immediately are intimacy, and then the second one being division of labor. And I think that people can have like so much love, care, and affection for each other, but the first couple of years of marriage might be where they're really testing those couple of things out, and maybe haven't in the past. In the season of like living together constantly, like there you are all the time, you never leave. I remember just being like, why is he always here?
It's so strange now. No, but this is true too, and I think different in a Christian context too. And I know, people believe different things or live their lives differently, but for a lot of people in a Christian marriage, it might be the first time they've ever lived with that person. Or,
Yes.
like there's huge steps being taken in their relationship from what it was before. Like some people may have lived together for a long time before they get married, so all of that sort of logistical aspect of like living, cohabiting with another person maybe isn't such a shock when they actually get married. But then for others, it's like not only are they getting married, joining together, but then also they start living with each other that they didn't before, and all of that, like, it's a lot, for
Yeah, well,
a lot of
people
people.
have, I find a lot of people, let's say outside of that Christian context, they may have been flatting with each other
Yep.
and with others. And then when they get married, they move into their own home together. So they now can't lean, I guess, on those other people. So the division of labor then just becomes about those two people. That creates a lot of conflict.
We put this out on our Facebook page, and there was a really cool response, and people were actually giving their own advice around this, right? Commenting. One person said, find your people, the ones you can go to through anything, and they will support both of you and speak wisdom, holding you to God's call for you both. What are the pitfalls of doing that when they're not trained therapists like yourself? Are there any pitfalls for that? I highly recommend that people have really, really good people around them to speak wisdom and truth. What's your call on it?
Yeah, so if you think they've just got a really small or narrow reference point. So what I do is I get to sit with hundreds, if not thousands of couples at this stage, and you get a really broad reference point. So I can kind of see key themes, whereas talking to your best friend, whilst extremely helpful and important, they've really got a narrow reference point. So their sense of what's normal, what's okay, what you should or shouldn't do might work sometimes, but also be slightly off base. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When you talk about division of labor, Um, is it often the guys that need like? I mean, I don't mean to like stereotype, but is that a common?
But you will.
Well, yeah. In my head, I would assume that is probably. I don't know, maybe guys deferring to their wives, taking care of a lot of stuff at home when they've never talked about anything or just assuming things. I don't know. Is that common?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's two really understandable reasons for that. So this is not about blame or shame. I think sociologically, actually, it makes a lot of sense. So the first reason is we know from research that boys are given less household chores tasks and given less responsibility in the home growing up than girls are. So they're actually taught, girls are really taught and trained into how to look after that home in the way that boys aren't. And that's not those boys' fault. That like they were children in that scenario.
So it's like conditioning, basically.
They were conditioned, yeah. And then the other reason is what they were modeled. So what they were given was of a previous generation, of which the division of labor, which was much more rigid and concrete. So of course, we all tend to follow the model that we're given. And so, if you're a girl, you're usually modeling after your mother, and vice versa for boys. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It's not about blaming each other. It's like, okay, this is a problem, and it's not conducive to us being really happy together. So what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, that's interesting, eh? The like past generational thing would obviously have a huge effect on people's now relationship, right? But then if you're looking at a time when maybe society was set up pretty different, where you had one person primarily maybe working and one person staying home, and things are organized around that, and nowadays that's a lot less common, but kind of the expectations are like hangover from that period of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We still largely expect women to both work, do childcare, and look after the home. And the research says that internationally they do, I think it's like at least 30% more of the household work, even when they work equivalent paid hours to the male spouse. So that is a problem, and it creates a lot of stress. It creates a lot of resentment, like a lot of resentment. And it's really hard to have intimacy, for example, if you're resentful.
Yeah.
Like, it's very challenging. So it's also hard to go out and have fun and like have a cool date if you're got this resentment that's sitting there. So it has to be dealt with.
Very tough. Oh, last one from me, Joe. This is really, really cool. We could talk about this forever, actually. But the comments, the main comments that came through on our Facebook page was about communication. So ultimately, if you could just wrap this up in terms of the advice that you would give people in their first year of marriage around comms, what would that look like?
I would say give it some dedicated time. Don't just wait till issues come up. Be talking at a scheduled time every week to think about your relationship, and don't mix up talking about the relationship with having fun. You need to go and have your play and your fun and your good times without intense conversations. So try and pull those two pieces apart.
One other thing you mentioned there about, you said it's hard to be intimate when people are, angry or like having conflict and all of that kind of stuff. Do you see a lot of people in the first few years of their marriage having problems with intimacy? I mean, again, in like a Christian sense, a lot of people, that'll be kind of a new aspect of their relationship once they get married. And then, I don't know, different ideas around all kinds of stuff around that. Is that quite a common? Because it's not really something a lot of people talk about,
Yeah, absolutely. The stories we often hear are when it's going really well.
Yeah.
And as in like the stories we hear in public amongst our friends. So the majority of the time, actually, it's got some challenges to it. And like in that challenge, some couples are finding different things challenging. So it's not always the same. But think it's really, really normal to have an adjustment period, some kind of a tricky phase. No matter when you've started intimacy in your relationship, every single couple will usually go through a hard point at some time. So it's really, really normal, and there's no shame in that. We just have to figure it out.
This is a nice segue into a course that you're offering around this, and people can jump into your website to find out more info.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, 3 different courses around that subject. So one is for if you're experiencing any pain, one is for if you've recently had a baby in the last 2 years, and one is for just general, you want improvement, want things to look better. So joerobertson.org, and they're all there.